Welcome to First Sundays with Black Poet Laureates, a podcast of the National Black Poet Laureate Society. I am your host, Raya Carmen, Executive Director of the Society. Each month on the first Sunday, we will celebrate the voices, visions, and verses of Black Poet Laureates across the United States. These are the poets who carry the weight and the honor of their communities, their stories, and who transform the ordinary into extraordinary. These are the poets that remind us that poetry is not just an art form. It's a lifeline, a mirror, and a beacon. The National Black Poet Laureate Society is dedicated to amplifying the work of Black Poet Laureates, fostering community among these poets and poetry lovers, and ensuring the rich tradition of Black poets. There's excellence through this organization, and it continues to thrive as we have more and more Black Poet Laureates joining our ranks. Through our anthology series, which is In the Fullness of the Word, our annual conferences and conversations like the one we're about to have, we will continue to build a living archive of Black Poet Laureate brilliance. Today, I am honored to be in conversation with Terry E. Carter, the inaugural Poet Laureate of Medford, Massachusetts. And he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. So, Terry, tell us just a little bit about what you do and yourself.
Well, pleasure to be with you first and foremost. It's been a while since we've connected like this, but I'm always happy to have these kinds of conversations because we find out so much about each other and about what we're doing at large as a society of Black Poet Laureates. Um, I'm born and raised in West Medford, Massachusetts, which is, a neighborhood a historically African American neighborhood within the city of Medford in Massachusetts. For anybody who doesn't know what Medford, where Medford, how Medford, Medford, think Tufts University. That's probably the landmark that most people can kind of say, oh, Tufts, okay, that's a pretty good school. In any case, I'm beside being a poet laureate emeritus, I'm a pastor, an associate pastor at a pretty big church in Boston, Massachusetts. Also has branches in Stoughton where I serve, and in Worcester, Massachusetts, called Jubilee Christian Church. And during the day, most days, I direct elder services at the local community center in West Medford. So, and then we write, we consult, we workshop, we speak, we do all of those things that that our poets have the opportunity to do, because folks recognize the art form that we practice in.
Awesome, awesome. So, since you were the inaugural, can you tell us a little bit about being the very first? Like, what was that like? What was the journey like to becoming the very first Poet Laureate of Medford?
It's really very interesting because as a first, you kind of are in uncharted territory,
Yeah,
so you kind of craft and create your own program. So, I would speak at the schools and in inaugural events for the city or in meaningful, important events for the city. I get called on to do poetry, and in many cases bespoke poetry that was written specifically for that event. Now, and you know how that works. Um, I'm rare. So, those kinds of things, and then trying to make room and make space for other poets in the city. So,
gotcha.
from open mics to special programs at the community center that I work at. I was able to continue a program that I've been doing called, oddly enough, First Fridays, Words and Music. And what we do is we do an hour of moderated talk, and then we do an hour of live music. And oftentimes that live
Nice.
music included poetry.
I love that.
Sometimes mine, sometimes the poetry of others. But it gave me a platform and an opportunity to celebrate poetry in West Medford and Medford on a real regular basis. And we're still doing that. I think we probably have, 70 or 80 programs in the can because we've been doing it for, for a number of years now.
That's good.
Um,
Good stuff.
but yeah, so it was those kinds of things, talking with other poets, workshopping and hanging out with other poets in the city, trying to get to know who was around and who was doing what. And two of the poets that competed for the inaugural laureateship at the same time that I did subsequently became the second and now the third poet laureate of the city. And we've
That's
become great
nice.
friends. Yeah, and
That's
we
good.
exchange a lot of ideas and we're frequently together doing poetry at different events. So it's fun and I really enjoy the distinction but also the continuity that we've achieved in
Mm.
kind of extending this thing forward.
You talked about just like that. One, you said two things, like making space for other poets, like and creating space for,
Mm,
I guess, the next generation, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
also just the continuity in the office that you guys are constantly working together. How do you see that? Um, affecting your community, like that continuity, because a lot of us, there isn't that continuity, right? The person comes in after us and then we just kind of move on. But to be able to continue to perform with the new people that are coming in, like how do you create that space and and then how do you see that connecting to and transforming your community?
Well, I think what happened is when the Arts Council and the mayor got together to create the office of the Poet Laureate, and I I'm gonna be honest, I had kind of put some seeds in the atmosphere through a conversation or two that I had with the mayor, not necessarily knowing where it would lead, but I'm not sure if she had an idea of this thing existing
Mm-hmm.
and of what other communities adjacent to Medford were doing with it.
Wow.
So, through those conversations, I think she had an idea of what she was looking for, and the Arts Council supported it financially. And so when they brought in this first group to kind of figure out who was going to be the poet laureate, um, I think we took it upon ourselves once I received the notice that we would, continue to talk with one another.
Got you.
And
Yeah.
the second poet laureate, um, she reached out to me immediately and said she'd love to, work with me. She'd love to, kind of pick my brain, establish some things that would,
Hmm.
would be durable. And then the third poet laureate, I already knew him through work I had been doing in the school system,
Gotcha.
because he actually teaches in the school system. He's a high school English teacher, and he brews beer. As a matter of fact, he's a brewmaster.
Ah.
He and his partners have their own little brewery in West Medford. So we got to be fast friends, and so we just we stayed connected. So
Hmm.
whenever there's a like we had a poetry festival in April,
Wow.
coinciding with National Poetry Month, and all three of us, at various times were heavily involved in that poetry
Hmm.
festival. No animosity, no jealousy that I know of. So and I think imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So since we've been working together, sometimes on different platforms and in different places, I think we've all found things in the poetry of the other person that we like.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe we snip and cut a little here, snip and cut a little there. Because I listen to her name is Vijaya Sundaram. She's an Indian woman, and I listened to her poetry before, and I listen to it now, and I hear things that say that suggest, oh, okay, she was paying attention.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and the same thing with the current poet laureate
Hmm.
Max. Um, and he's very, very different. Our styles are very different. He's really a classicist. So, I mean, Wordsworth, Keats, Shelley, because he teaches English, all
Got
of
you.
the influences seep into his work. And I'm a black poet. You know, I'm
Right.
Harlem Renaissance. Black Arts South. You know,
Right.
I'm I'm if as classic as I get is, I like sonnets. I like the sonnet form. So, I'll use the sonnet form, fairly frequently.
Hmm.
I like to rhyme. So, I can get susical in a minute. Um, and I'm not far from hip hop, in terms of, coming up. So, my wife says, what is that? I said, well, I got bars. I got bars. I can
Got
spit a little
boss.
bit. So every once in a while, I'll try and do something that, from a metrical standpoint, probably sounds a little bit like a rap, you know.
Got you. I
We
got you.
do, we do.
You,
I mean,
you,
we
yeah,
do,
and
we
you
do.
do you do a lot of poetry with music, right? Like with a
Yeah,
band and all of that.
yeah,
So I think that's that classic that
yeah.
Harlem Renaissance influence starts to show up in, kind of like the beat poetry.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's jazz. It's very jazz oriented because that's like, besides poetry in terms of art forms, and I paint a little bit too, so I'm a bit of a visual artist, but not like Henry, not like Henry Jones. Henry Jones, boy, that brother, our poet laureate from Hendersonville,
he's a
um,
bad one. He's a
he's a
bad one.
bad boy, man. He got mad skills on both sides of the aisle. So, but anyways, we I got a group, and that they're white guys, but they're real serious jazz musicians,
Hmm.
and we call ourselves the Ally Project. And yeah, I say we met at the intersection of jazz and social justice. So our first CD is called the Ally Project, and we cut it, a couple years ago. But that's what it is. It's jazz
Hmm.
and social justice. So, we get together and we play, and we do my friend Jonathan, who is the leader. He is he convened the first Medford Jazz Festival several years ago, and we've been
Wow.
doing it every year since. And so we do one set during the jazz festival, and then we bring in some people that really know what they're doing.
Just one sec. I love that. I love it.
Yeah,
Well, since we talked a little bit about the music, we talked about how it kind of, gets into your poetry. I
yeah.
would love for you to do a piece for us, if
Okay.
you don't mind.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And you've heard me before. You know where I live in terms of poetry, right?
Oh yeah,
And we're in those times and in those days where we as poets, we really have to speak truth to power as often as we possibly can.
absolutely.
We're not looking to hurt nobody's feelings. We're not looking to insult anybody, but we're really truth tellers right now. We're soothsayers, we're griots, and we really, really are charged with the responsibility of speaking for our masses. So this piece is called "If You Kill Us All." If you kill us all, what will it matter? Can you then live peaceably among your all white neighbors? I think not. History has shown you to be a vengeful, violent, and voracious lot. You will soon set your sights on all that you covet on the other side, where his grass is greener, and his fruit is sweeter, and his land is more fertile. You will trumpet your virility, further suppress your humility, and repress all thoughts of humanity, civility, charity, and equity. Your rich will get richer, your poor will grow poorer, Class will divide, caste will conquer, fences, borders, and barriers will persist. Killing the black seed will not make you smarter, will not make you gentler, will not restore your faith, your sanity, your purity, or your perceived nobility. It will only expand your avarice, your overreaching, your psychoses, and your desire to dominate someone or something or everyone or everything. It is a preternatural sickness, some caustic remnant of ancient Viking bloodlust or a Germanic rubric of savagery born of Caucasus mountain madness and Slavic barbarism. It will not solve a problem of race. It will only hasten the purges and cleansing of your own. It will only hasten 100 new crusades, 1,000 other final solutions, and endless Jonestown separations. You will never be satisfied with your lot and your store. Cult, clique, and clan will always demand prideful patriarchy, frenzy, feudalism, and murderous hegemony. History can hide but not deny. Sociology can mask but not evade. Facts once buried in darkness will soon come to light in the white heat of a black sun thought successfully vanquished. If you kill us all, what will it matter? The unforgiven blackness was never your enemy. Your true demons lie within.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I love I love what you said about uh in the you said in the white light of a black sun.
yeah,
Man, okay, so was it last month? No, 2 months ago, we interviewed Dr. Natalie Graham.
yes,
And I took her workshop. And one thing she said in that workshop, and I said it then and I'm gonna say it again, is she said, it is because you say it is. And so she was like, when like to be courageous enough to say something that doesn't really exist to get your point across. So like
yeah.
that black sun was
Hmm.
so powerful. Like because you said it was, I was like, dang, I get it, right? The shining of a black sun is
Yeah.
like
Or the fact that
a
when the eclipse
powerful
occurs,
image.
yeah, and the moon passes over the sun is black,
Yeah,
you know. So there exists such a thing, you know.
I love it. I love it. That's beautiful. Absolutely. So, is this a piece that's in your new book?
No, it is a piece that's going to be in my new book, and that's
Okay.
something that you and I still need to talk about, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, I've been writing like crazy,
Okay.
crazy, and unfortunately, a lot of bespoke pieces for folks that have passed. I've
Mm.
been working on a piece. Another associate pastor at Jubilee, a longtime associate, passed just recently. He contracted ALS and
Oh.
had a hard way to go for a couple of years, but he fought it,
Mm-hmm.
and he's having his home going in more of a memorial service.
Yeah.
Um, and his wife, a dear friend and co-pastor, asked if I would write a piece for his homegoing. So I've been working on that. But I like to write. I like to write to mission. I really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It challenges you and really draws you out of, like how your normal get at it.
Yeah.
I have a
Absolutely.
way I like to write poetry. I
Mm-hmm.
do my thing. But when you have to write a bespoke piece, you got to get away from that. You've
Mm-hmm.
got to get into the people that you're writing for. You've got to get into the rationale, for why you're writing it. And then
Mm-hmm.
you got to get into what you think that their vision or mission is for having the piece.
Yeah. I've been practicing that a lot.
Hmm.
Since I was named the very first poet in residence for the symphony in Knoxville.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And
Congratulations on that, incidentally.
oh,
It's,
thank you.
it's big
But
time.
writing for such an audience
Hmm.
so that they can hear what's behind the poem
Yeah.
is the task, right?
Yeah.
So I did our July 4th. That was like their very first piece that they commissioned for me to write.
Lovely.
And 250 years of America, right? I could, and I was writing to the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Oh,
So,
that's good. Yeah.
so it was like, okay, how do I get in here to say what needs to be said at this
Mm,
time in the climate of our country so that 100,000 Knoxvillians who are watching on TV or there at the event can
yeah.
hear what I'm saying and hear it as a call to action to continue to march
Yeah.
forward
Absolutely.
to some unity.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's that, but then there's also what I started doing is I started once a month, I go to a coffee house and I set up a
Uh-huh.
little tent, like a little cardboard tent that says free poems.
Yeah.
Tip if you like it. And so I let people just come and sit and tell me their story.
I love
And
that.
I write them a poem. But that exercises that muscle of not writing the way I always see it, but really getting into who they are and the pieces that they need.
Yeah.
Um, and I found that that's just an exercise that just really kind of it blesses me and it gives me, the opportunity to tap into other people's stories and other people's lives.
I'm stealing that.
You said I'm
I'm just
stealing
gonna
it. I'm
be,
stealing it. I'm
I'm gonna
taking
be
it.
real transparent. No, because just like I said, imitation is sincerest form of flattery. I think it's brilliant, first of all. So, I commend you for coming up with that concept. And I think that, maybe it's something that we should all at least try, you
Well, I
know?
got it. I got it
Yeah.
online. I know
No,
that
it's
there's a couple of
beautiful.
poets who do
Yeah.
that, and it's their career. Like they
Yeah.
do like live poetry is what they call
Yeah.
it, and they have
Yeah.
typewriters and everything. And I don't, go that far,
Uh-huh.
but I do, I say tip, if it hits you. And I've had people tip up to $100. Like,
I
what?
love it.
I said,
I
gave you a
love it.
free
I
poem and you just tipped
again,
me $100. Thanks.
I think it's brilliant. I
But
think it's brilliant. I'm gonna talk to my boy Max. I'm gonna say, let me come down to the brewery, you
that's
know,
it right there.
and
That's
and you
it.
know,
And
and
just do it. I just do it once
I'll
a
get
month.
folks who are on a beer high as
Hmm.
opposed to a coffee high.
Yeah, and just the stories that I've gotten and just,
Yeah,
like it's amazing. It's it's
yeah,
it's awesome. I don't live in a city that has an abundance of Black people.
understood.
So I'm getting stories from people from all walks of life.
That's
And
fantastic.
I know the very first time I did it, this lady came and she asked me to write two poems, one for her friend and one for her friend's mother, who was suffering from terminal cancer. She was on her
Mm.
way out. And I wrote
Hmm.
the two poems for her. I think she tipped me $20, $10 a poem.
Yeah.
And she came back just last Saturday before last, and she
Uh-huh.
said, I need you to know I am on my way to her celebration of life. Like she's
Uh-huh.
passed. But
Yeah.
the poem that you wrote, my friend, is framed because it's what got her through
Oh,
this time of
hallelujah.
her life.
That's
And I
beautiful.
was like, more than the tip, that is
Yeah.
like I'm like a bucket of tears at this point. You know what I mean? That's what I do it for because that means I tapped into what you needed me to tap into.
Yeah.
And another family came and said that their daughter was suffering from finding out she was epileptic.
Oh man.
And they wanted her to have a poem that she could read every morning to herself to encourage her to continue to trust
Wow.
God through it.
See?
And
Mm.
so I wrote that poem. I never thought I was going to meet this little girl, right? Just never thought it. And then I also do a workshop for young people every
Hmm.
summer.
Hmm.
And the little girl happened to be at the workshop. And she's saying
Unbelievable.
things to me the whole time. She came up to me after it was over and she said, would you happen to know? And she said my friend's name. And I was like, yeah, I know her. That's my girl. And she said, I think my parents asked you to write me a poem. And I was
Mm.
like, your parents? And she told me who her parents were. And I was like, they did. I said, I never thought I would meet you. And she just started
Wow.
crying. And she was like,
Uh-huh.
thank you so much. I read it every day. I read it
Wow.
every day. And I was just like, man, thanks. That's God letting me know that those moments are why we do what we do. Like,
They
yeah,
absolutely
we
are.
can be activists and we can write poems, about politics and all of that. But the bigger issue is
Yeah.
people's lives and
We're
what they're
human.
living from day, that
Yeah.
unity and that connection. And so using poetry for that connection has been just a blessing for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
So,
magnificent. I really do. To get that kind of affirmation that what you do makes a difference in somebody's life. There's
yeah,
there's
yeah,
nothing better. That's
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 why I
the
keep
artist.
doing it. Right?
Yeah.
That's why we keep doing it. Like, yeah, we want bigger checks and all of that good stuff, but at the end of the day, we
Yeah.
do it because we want to touch somebody,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Um, I started off in the world of slam and it just never seemed right to write a poem for a score. Like I wanted the audience, whether I got a high score or not, I wanted it to
Mhm.
touch somebody in the
Yes.
audience,
Hmm.
And tends
Understood.
to be when you write like that, you get the high score because
Yeah.
people want to feel our poems. That's
Absolutely.
it, right?
Agreed.
So
I agree. 100%. 100%.
sorry, I
But
just went
yeah.
on a rant,
No, no, no.
These
I
conversations
love
are
hearing
about
those
that.
stories. Because at the end of the day, that's what we are. We're storytellers.
Yeah, that's it.
We're the modern age American griots of our society.
Mm,
And we have to keep that tradition alive. So I don't, and I've never been, a slam poet. Um, I can't go off the dome, anymore. There
I
might have
can't
been a
either
time when I
anymore.
could, but if it ain't on the page, forget about it. I got to write it down. And that's the beauty of being, kind of a poet and an author. You get into that writing groove and you're writing to
Mhm.
purpose. Um, and you're writing somewhat for legacy as well.
Yeah.
I have a daughter, she's 31, 32 years old. She's in Brooklyn. She's a struggling actress, as many of them are. Um, but I wrote part of the reason why I wanted books is because I wanted her to have that piece of legacy.
Hmm.
You know, you know, what did your daddy do? Well, he was a poet and he wrote books, you know.
I love, yes,
I, you
yes.
know, and she doesn't have to say anything else. But if I can give her that and have it be something that she's proud of, that's
Hey,
baby
that's
right
that's
there.
that's it right there. You
Baby.
you have made it happen at that point. So,
Yeah.
I'm always interested because parents, we do you have you written her a poem?
Oh yeah, several, several.
That is
You
one of
know,
the hardest things for me is to put into words
yeah,
the relationship with my boys.
yeah.
So I've written one for my oldest, but the my youngest, that one's been a hard one. I've been trying to tackle it. But it took me
Yeah.
11 years to write the first one. So, um, but
I
putting that
got.
much emotion
Mhm.
into the poem has been that one's a task.
Oh, it can be very emotional. That's for sure. As a matter of fact, I have one that I've written that I can't show her. She may have seen it. It depends on whether or not she's really been intentional about reading my books. And I've never,
Hmm.
I've never even asked. I don't even say, well, did you read this? And did you read? And I don't do that. But there's a piece that I wrote about a young woman being in New York and getting knocked around a little bit because New York is a hard place.
Yeah, it
If
is.
you didn't grow up there, especially, Brooklyn don't play, right?
It
And,
doesn't.
so I wrote about what happens when the city kind of kind of chews you up and spits you out, you know.
Mm,
And the last line of it is, um, basically, you can always come home and we'll leave the light on, you know.
that's beautiful.
So whatever the city does to you, however its meanness and its coarseness and its tragedy around every corner, however it pushes you, you always have a place to lay your head if you need it. Now,
Yeah.
I know for a fact she ain't never coming home. Getting her to man, getting her to come home and visit is an act of the Almighty. So I know she ain't coming home to live, right? She has sold, all of her Medford chips, bought her, that would get her at least a few Brooklyn chips, and she's pushed them all into the center of the table. That's what she's trying to be, what she's trying to do. So we do our best to support her in whatever way we can.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, but some other pieces I've written for her and about her, and dedicated different pieces to her, that aren't necessarily frames of her life, but but we're inspired by kind of who she is and how she is as a young person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that. I
beautiful
love that.
soul, really beautiful soul. Yeah.
Yeah, we're proud parents, proud.
Same thing for, my wife, because we only have one daughter. Now we have spiritual daughters, as
Yeah.
pastors do. You take them under your wing, right? And once they
Yes.
identify you as a parent, man, they cling,
Yeah.
so we got Klingons. We love them.
Klingons, I love that.
Klingons.
I grew up with Klingons
I know you
because
did.
my mama took in a little
Mhm.
bit of
Oh,
everybody, it seems
oh,
like.
hallelujah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely grew up in that. So, um, let's see. Man. So, okay, you said you work at the community center
Yeah.
with the elderly.
Right.
Do you write with them?
I have done, I think, two different workshops with them,
Mm-hmm.
right? In addition to doing senior workshops with a number of other groups, in and out of Medford. Um, it's funny, the people that you're closest to, they kind of take you for granted a little bit.
That's
You know,
true.
so they think anytime they want something, they could just, snap their fingers and you're gonna come running, right? Which may be a little bit true. But yeah, but I they like it, they don't love it. You
Okay,
know,
okay.
and they like it best when I do it for them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they
Okay.
like to hear it. They like it. You know, um, they they struggle a little bit more than they thought they would or that they wanted to in these workshops. Like I did an ekphrastic workshop, and I handed
Mm,
a bunch of beautiful, African American oriented paintings. Um, and I said, basically, write off of what you see, write off
yeah.
of how this, hits you. And I gave him a couple of examples, and we got poetry out of it. We definitely got poetry out of it. But I think they thought it was hard, they thought it was too hard. Oh, this is too hard. And so they fussed with me the whole time, but I think that they were happy with what they came up with afterwards.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people who don't see themselves as poets,
Hmm.
that can be they're like, oh, it was hard, but then when they finally see that product at the end, then they are definitely like they tap into it.
Yeah.
Um, yes. Uh, Hold on.
Because I would say, they would say to me, "Well, I can't find a word that rhymes with this word." Because another activity I gave them was I gave them each an envelope, and the envelope had rhyming words in it.
Yeah.
Four rhyming words in it. I said, make you a little poem with these rhyming words, right? And some of them got a little ambitious and they rhymed the words that I gave them, and then they were looking for additional words that rhymed so that they could have 6 lines or 8 lines. And I was telling them, well, you don't have to have all 8 lines rhyme, you know? Or you can
Just a
take a
few
line
of them.
that doesn't rhyme in between the 2 lines that do rhyme, and
Yeah,
try to, get
trying to
get
help
it.
them out.
Yeah, trying to help them out, trying to help them understand the dynamics of it. It's your voice.
Mm-hmm.
So however it comes out is however it comes out.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, so I don't know what you're going to read,
Hmm.
um, but I'm excited for your second piece that we get to hear tonight.
Okay.
Um, because I am looking forward to the way that you write and how it talks about like history and like just combining history with present day.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. And when you finished the first poem, I was sitting there thinking, there's an article that I just read about there will be Black people in the future.
Mm.
And it really addresses the fact of, and it's like academia, but they're like trying to help people understand that Black people aren't going anywhere. So I thought that was very interesting that I read that in academia and then your poetry addressed it. And so that's awesome. Uh that's just a sidebar. So anyways, okay, go for it.
I like that. I like that.
And I can't wait to hear it.
We did a we do an annual Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. The community center teams up with a bunch of different entities in Medford proper, and we put on a big MLK Day. And it's my project, so I do everything from soup to nuts, from emceeing to gathering the different folks, dance and other poetry, and you know theater and everything. And so I always try and write a piece for it. So I wrote this piece to go with the theme, because the theme was "If We Don't Quit." And that's the name of the piece. If we don't quit, we can protest our plight with the alacrity and tenacity of Medgar and Martin and Malcolm. We can purge our psyches of guilt and shame and isolation like Mandela at Robben Island's release. We can pause the clock on the desecration of our tribes and our villages. We can plow the fields of our ancestors and plant the seeds of the dreams they left us. We can post the news of the fall of our demons and pursue new justice with grace and creativity. We can push back against the ugliness and ignorance of a society drunk again with predatory whiteness. We can plan celebrations with our true allies and propose toasts to salute our heroes. We can promote our culture with righteous pride in the face of our detractors. We can protect our progeny, our probity, and our dignity with the content of our character. We can peacefully advance against red lines and black codes and institutional systems of oppression. We can purposefully move the wheels of a positive change forward. We can permanently say no to hate for hate's sake alone. If we don't quit, we will vindicate the sacrifices of our lost leaders and slain advocates. We will validate the legitimacy of our journey to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We will venerate the greatness of our poets and prophets and griots and sages. We will rightly divide the testimonies of our seers and record the witness like Ida B., Zora Neale, Maya, and Nikki. We will vacuum up the dirt that a mountain of malice has heaped upon us. We will vouchsafe an inheritance of restoration and repair for a sea of iniquities against us. We will vaporize the legions of assassins who lie in wait for any lack of vigilance. We will visualize with eyes wide open the hazardous ascent of the hellbound and the hysterical. We will vaccinate our young with the overflowing vial of courage under fire. If we don't quit, new histories will avow that we were as valorous as Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey and Sister Rosa, that we rose victorious like Mansa Musa, Shaka Zulu, and the Black Moors who civilized Aryan heathens across Europe, that we called out vociferously to the masked denizens who perch in the caverns and bivouacs, "Come out if you dare," that we form the vanguard who watches over the village in silent strength, that we rent asunder the veils, cloaks, and robes of the angry mobs and frenzied marauders. If we don't quit, We can cast our vote for brown equity and black excellence. We can assemble in new vicinities, new vacancies, and new versions of our former vagrancy. We can add glowingly to the lyricist's verses and the composer's canon and the arranger's concerto. We can bring harmony and melody to the mix of global voices who make up our choir. We can pen indelible pages, chapters, and volumes to the stories of 1,000 nations. We can be deemed so valiant that the slings and arrows of the bard's decree will cease to call our fortune outrageous. We can regard the night sky with blissful wonder, while our inquisitors sleep forever in their hard bed of their own fiery damnation. We can be resolute in knowing that their litany of vice will never cradle their heads with aught but recrimination and regrets. If we don't quit, we will give the valedictory address. We will speak of veracity and visions and Vanity Fair. We will curse viciousness, vituperation, and vile intent. We will castigate the pervasive virus of racism and social injustice in our midst. We will lead the songs of our people. This land is your land. This land is my land. This land was made for you and me. For deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday and free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. So that's that.
Yes, love it. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So, tell everyone where we can follow you,
Mhm.
where you are online, social
Yeah.
media, anything like that, so that they can know what's upcoming for you
Okay.
and be able to support you, whether they're in Medford or, across the United States.
Okay. I'm at online at www.brownskinnedpoet.net. That's brown skinned, so SKINNED poet.net. I'm a Facebook, I'm an old dude, so I'm still locked into Facebook. I have an Instagram account, but I'm still trying to figure out how to make it work, how to use it, how to
We
listen
all
to
are.
free and all that, right? But you definitely, I'm on Facebook as Terry Ikata, so that's most of it. I'm on LinkedIn, I've got a
Okay.
LinkedIn profile. Um, and that's probably about as deep as I am in social media. I have a separate I have my Facebook page, the Terry Ikata page, and then I have a brown skin poet page as well. So
Okay.
um, I need to be better at keeping up that page. So, because I'll post to my own page and then forget that I need to roll it over. And so, I mean, you know how it is. We got,
I definitely
different
know
stuff
how it
going on.
is
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm trying to do that dance myself. So
yeah.
definitely one of these days I'm gonna be able to just hire some young person and be like, do my
You
social
know what I'm
media.
saying? Yeah, no, I built my website on Wix, but I moved it over to this new provider called Tertulia that's specifically for authors and writers.
Okay.
And I've been relatively satisfied so far because truth of the matter is it all ends up being about the same, at the
Yeah,
end of
it
the day.
does.
If you
Yeah.
don't fuss with it constantly, and I don't have like you, I don't have time to be every
No
2 months
time.
tweaking my Facebook page or I mean not my Facebook page, but tweaking my website and
Website. Yeah. Just kind of got to
rebuilding
let it
this
go.
side and just let it do what it do, and if it
Yep.
does something good, people buy books off of it or
Yeah.
people send you messages to find out where you're going to be or what you're going to be doing. But that's mostly what I do with my Facebook page is try and keep people informed. We're
On where
doing
you're gonna be.
we're doing reading Frederick Douglass this weekend
Nice.
together, and I love that program because I I think I divvied up the the speech, which is voluminous, into 39 individual pieces. So we got 39 readers that are going to come in and do it.
That's
I
nice.
like to pick the readers as opposed to, whoever comes, because, you know, I'm a control freak like that, and I want voices that I want,
Of
attached to
course.
different phrases and different pieces. So it's nice to, know that, okay, I know if I give her this paragraph, she gonna hit it.
Right.
If
I
I
like
give
that.
him this, this piece, he's gonna make it come alive. So, I think the audience gets a lot out of it, because
Yeah.
I got some theatrical folks, I got some musical folks, I got some folks who, understand how to perform and deliver. So
Yep. And see, I might steal that one. So there you go.
yeah, yeah, no. That's how we do.
Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, as
Well,
always, it's a real pleasure talking with you. You do
oh
this
yeah.
this 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 platform really, really well, because you integrate what you do and who you are, which I think is wholly appropriate, with really, really well with the stories that you're hearing, and the way that the poets relate to you. We all relate to you. You and Henry have done a real good job of shepherding this
We
vehicle
trying.
to
We trying.
infancy,
We're trying to get
and
us
trying to
there.
build, really trying to build something, and
Yeah.
so for
That'll
anybody,
hopefully last.
yeah, yeah. So for anybody who sees this particular episode, we're building something, so
Mm,
don't sleep on it, come on, get on the podium with Ray, and get your story out there. And I know several
mhm.
of the brothers and sisters that I've heard do these first Sundays they're magnificent poets, but
Yeah.
they're great folks too. They're good to just listen and chop it up with.
Yeah.
So,
And we learn from each
oh,
other.
you
And
learn a
that's
lot.
that's the key. Yep.
A lot. You definitely do.
Well, Terry, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your words, your
Thank
wisdom, and
you.
your work with our community. It has been so much fun and truly enriching. To all of you that have been listening to this first Sunday with Black Poet Laureates, if you want to learn more about Terry, you'll be able to find links to his website and his Facebook page and anything else in the show notes that'll be in the description. The National Black Poet Laureate Society is launching our website, or actually has launched our website here in 2026. And you're able to go and explore our directory of Black Poet Laureates, learn more about the upcoming conference, and pre order your volume 2 of In Fullness of the Word, which is an anthology of Black Poet Laureates in the United States. Visit us at
Great book.
www.blackpoetlaureates.com and follow us on social media. We are on Facebook. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe and leave a review, and then share this episode with somebody else that you know that loves poetry. Join us on the first Sunday of August, and most of the time every month, as we continue to celebrate the brilliance of Black Poet Laureates across the nation. Until next time, keep the words flowing and the legacy growing.